Hey there, Bruce, and welcome back to Misericorde Volume 1. The last episode was a good one. I enjoyed it very much. We kind of put Angela in her place. Well, we didn't. Sister Charity did. That was good. That was a good time. Yeah, I like her now. She's one of my favorites. Anyway, supper tasted like ash. Why did I feel so wretched given that Charity had been completely correct? Angela had treated me horribly in my brief time within her reach. There was no denying it. From the way everyone else spoke of her, it sounded like I was not the sole target of her ire either. I deserved it. The suffering Angela seemed intent on inflicting upon me felt like an appropriate punishment for all of my little sins. In fact, if that had been all I had to endure, I might say that I'd gotten off lightly. An anchorite or anchoress does not break their vow. It just never happens. As I spooned my meal into my mouth, I thought about these words. No, Latin. I will even appoint you over terror, consumption, and the burning ague that shall consume the eyes and cause sorrow of the heart. I was positively awash in sorrow. I was terrified beyond reckoning, and I was racked with a mysterious illness. One that did not seem to be life-threatening, but enhanced my sorrows and fears thrice over. I imagine that evil symbol was doing that. I was being punished. For the next few days, I completed my task in silence and wandered the halls in a daze. I accepted my due. Maybe that guy, the ghost guy with the sword, marked us. Maybe it's like that Michael J. Fox movie. What is it, The Frighteners? And everyone gets a number on their head and that's the order they die in or whatever. Maybe it's like that. Maybe he marked us for death. At night, the halls echoed with that familiar, incessant scratching. I would stand at the end of the old hallway, torn between returning to the comfort of my cell and fear of the demonic symbol in the walls behind it. I must apologise. I don't remember anything worth noting for a little while after that. Faux pas. Oh, you couldn't see that. An achievement came up that said faux pas. What a faux pas. Calling someone a gangly creep is a bit of a fucking social faux pas. From my experience. Every time I called someone a gangly creep in public, they were not impressed. Excuse me. I'm very sorry, my stupor lasted for several days. The superior eventually pulled me into her office and gently asked if I'd made any progress. I hadn't, of course, which meant the rest of the conversation was decidedly less gentle. Hedwig, I'm sure I don't need to impress the importance of your tasks upon you again. No, not at all, it's just... The path forward seems exceedingly simple to me. You haven't even breached the topic with Catherine the One. How exactly do I do that, given the entire thing anyway? I would have expected that by now you would have been able to integrate yourself into the sisters. Ingratiate, sorry. Can you really think of no way to elegantly approach the subject? Not that easy. Of course it won't be easy. Speaking of the dead never is. But surely you can come up with a way to be elegant about it. I think you're vastly overestimating my social abilities. It's hardly been a week. I don't mean to be brutish, but you haven't been drawn and quartered by any conspirators yet, have you? You're not suspected of any ulterior motives, I'm certain of it. All the more reason that starting to press now feels so difficult. The superior sighed deeply. Let's walk through things together. James told you Catherine can vouch for him regarding his travelling cloak. I imagine there's a way to confirm this without revealing too much. How? I suppose you could ask about Catherine 1 generally? Respectfully, of course, and then you could, I don't know, mention you heard something about the cloaked villain arriving that morning. It is better than nothing. It sounds like you've thought about this. Maybe you should ask her. You're his superior, after all. I'm your superior as well. Of course, I didn't mean... And I could not ask her for that precise reason. I am in charge of this place, and therefore everyone has their guard up around me. That doesn't make any sense. It is the way of the world. Being in charge is often more work than being charged. It is exhausting. But they'll trust me. I don't think anyone here would confide in me so readily. It is more likely they would speak to you openly, yes. Or at the least, they may be less inclined to choose every word so carefully. I just don't know. Hedwig, you met James. You saw his suffering. I did. And perhaps they have not shown it, but the sisters are suffering as well. Bringing the truth to light will help to heal everyone. It will fix everything. Well, not the accused. I just want the truth. If the sisters are keeping secrets, it could well be that they are hiding the truth out of fear rather than malice. The cloud must be lifted for everyone's sake, and for Catherine too's. I wish people would stop calling her that. It doesn't feel right. Catherine too? I assure you, we meant it with the utmost affection. She took it wholeheartedly. Her and Catherine the First, she played some sort of game for it. It was a series of chess games, if I recall. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised at this point. It's an exceedingly popular game. It's not just for children, if that's your apprehension. I wouldn't say I have any apprehension. I mostly just find myself frustrated by its use as a sort of language all of its own. I think I was expecting that years and years of reading scripture would have been enough to prepare me for speaking in an abbey. Interesting, you know, I actually find it surprising none of the books you had in your cell mentioned chess. It feels very old to me. There's so much written about it. As you pointed out, it weaves through every conversation. I've known about it my whole life. It's very frustrating. It's more than just chess. I don't feel like I'm relating to these women at all. What if I taught you? What? Chess. Would you like to learn how to play? I wouldn't want to impose. Don't be silly, it's a game. It's not an imposition in the slightest. Besides, it will help build your confidence up somewhat. The superior got up from his seat and walked over to a shelf in the corner, retrieving a large wooden box. She heaved it onto her desk and opened the clasps, revealing an impressively polished chessboard. She carefully laid this board on the desk and beckoned me to bring my chair closer. She began removing beautifully carved pieces from the box and placing them on the board. Some were brilliant white and others were tinted with a red hue. Ivory. Aren't they lovely? They're incredible. Now these common ones. That's right, the smaller ones. Those are the pawns. They get lined up in front like this. They look a bit like thimbles. They do, don't they? Line them up in a row here. What does the one on the horse do? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need to acquaint you with the most important pieces first. This one here is the king. I'll spare you with the details of my first game. Needless to say, I did quite terribly, although not for lack of trying. I've known how to play chess my entire life, and I still am terrible at it. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. It was interesting, though. It made me realise that I couldn't remember playing any games with anyone else before. I had little rituals I performed in my cell that I suppose you might consider games. I'd commit the words I was studying closely through Lectio Divina, and then see if I could make those passages and phrases again with words that I wrote while transcribing new Bibles. What, does that not count as a game? I will agree that it is different. You can play a game by yourself, but it's hard to consider that competition. The spirit of the whole endeavour is somewhat different entirely. I just sounded like Sister Adela, don't I? At the very least, playing chess with the superior was enlightening. I finally grasped why playing so-and-so moves ahead was such a helpful phrase. Unfortunately for me, I could barely think through the move that I was making, let alone what I'd do in the future. I believe that is checkmate. Ah, so it's over? Don't be discouraged, it was your first game. You did admirably, considering. Thank you. I'm more than happy to play with you more in the future if you'd like, but promise me you'll ask Catherine about James' cloak, one way or another. You made a promise to him, after all. And I think both of us have an unspoken promise to keep for Catherine too's sake, don't you? I'll make sure to speak with Sister Catherine. Good girl. I'll summon you again in a few days' time. She had been gesturing to me with my defeated king piece through this exchange. With a flick of the wrist, she placed it back in the sturdy box along with the other pieces. I stood up to leave and bowed my head. Thank you, Your Reverence. Now, we spoke of this. Yes, of course, until next time, Superior. She nodded and returned to tidying up the chessboard. I left the room. It was mid-afternoon. I remembered the sky looking cloudier than ever, as if the fog I'd seen surrounding Lindbarrow Tor had encroached around the abbey itself. What a strange place this is, I promised the Superior I'd speak to Catherine, but I admit that I was reluctant to run straight to her all the same. If she came to me, she came to me. After all, I would need to bring this topic up naturally. There was no use chasing her down. I decided to clear my head with a stroll through the garden. Sounds like I'm putting it off again. My stupor had not cleared completely, but I had at least the energy and desire to be among the flowers. It was a reassuring feeling. It had been a few days since I'd felt the capacity to want. Even with grey skies above, the garden was a jewel. The flowers were fewer than I'd imagined, but they might be in spring. But nonetheless, the bushes, hedges and herbs were welcome and inviting sight. I heard rustling up ahead. To my delight, a black cat eventually emerged from the bushes. It looked at me briefly with its big, moony eyes for a moment. I forgot all of my troubles. I stepped forward to kill it. It looked at me inquisitively, but a sudden sound from the bushes startled the poor thing. It scampered away, leaving me somewhat disappointed. Aw. A figure emerged through the bushes next to me. Sister Angela? Did you see it? The cat? No, the cow. She looked entirely ridiculous. There were twigs sticking out of her hood from an attempt to squeeze through the bushes, and she was breathing heavily. I suppose she must have been chasing a cat for quite some time. Of course I meant the cat. Oh, yes. Which way did it go? It sort of scurried off that way. I gestured toward the edge of the path. I was trying not to giggle at Angela's misfortune, especially given the Thinking about the animosity between us had put me in a daze for half a week. I see. She glanced in the direction I'd indicated and then sighed and stood up straight. If you find another opportunity, do try to seize it. Cats have no business here in the Abbey. Why not? Does it matter? I know you're not used to being outside your cell, but I would have thought obedience would not be so foreign a concept. I am the prioress. That should be reason enough. Why do you hate me so much? Angela was busy removing debris from her hood and cowl, but I could see her arch her eyebrow even higher than I was used to. I don't hate you. Well, it certainly seems like you do. I should have perhaps saved this confrontational energy for questioning Catherine, but seeing Angela so out of sorts, I must admit, urged me to act on the feelings that had been brewing inside me for the past several days. That's funny. You know, I could ask you the same question. I seem to recall that I walk in on you being incredibly childish in your estimation of me. That was Charity, she egged you on? Don't be pathetic. Own your words. You've been very cruel to me since we met. When you ran straight into me, that was a mistake. Yes, one you have made no effort to correct, it seems. I seem to recall that you barreled into me later the same day. I don't hate you, Sister Hedwig. I simply find you tiresome. I'm exhausted by what you represent. I wish you would believe me when I said I'm not after your job. I have no interest in running the Abbey. Or any Abbey, for that matter. Even if I did believe you, which I'm not saying that I do, that wouldn't comfort me much at all. Succession seems to be the Superior's plan for you, even if she hasn't told you. I'm the new chronicler, that's all. Yet you seem to leave your job quite early each day. I'm not a terribly prolific writer, not yet. This is one of the first times Angela hadn't had a retort ready to fire back at me. I was so surprised it almost knocked me off balance as much as a piercing reply would have. Anyway, for my part, I don't hate you. I'm afraid of you, I think. That's good. That means you've not yet abandoned all respect for authority. How perfectly cruel of you to say. This is exactly what I mean when I ask why do you hate me. And once again I must say I do not hate you. I hate your disregard for the natural order of things. I hate that once again I've been saddled with the unruly children to rear as my own because the Superior has no interest in doing it herself. I'm not a child. You were a babe, not 2 weeks out of the womb. You weren't alive in that cell, and choosing to break that seal is a grave sin on its own. By my estimation, you need my help more than anyone else here. Then help me. Do not revel in my sins. I'm not proud of them. What help can you offer me beyond venom? You know what this place is, Hedwig? Linbury Tor is not a normal monastery. Surely you've noticed, even with your complete lack of worldly experience. Of course. But this is the last stop before the gates of hell. Do you think all the sisters here ended up running this in this ruin of their own volition? Do you think there's an abundance of women in the world eager to take the veil and serve the Lord here? Make no mistake, you should be begging for my approval. You have emerged into a den of vipers, not a house of God. You shouldn't trust a word any of the sisters tell you. You should be wary of their intentions. Why, their behaviour in the wake of the murder of one of their own should be evidence enough. I don't hate you, Sister Hedwig. I'm simply the only person here who cares enough not to lie to you. I have high expectations for your behaviour, that is all. You at the very least have the potential to serve God with humility and grace here on this hill. Not like the other lost women here. The criminals and the freaks. Christ spoke highly of the prostitutes and tax collectors only on the condition that they sinned no more. The sisters here, they believe they are owed salvation. If that's true, Sister Angela, why? Spit it out. Why are you here? Why indeed? And with that, she brushed the last twig out of her habit, peered down her nose at me one last time, and left. How perfectly bewildering that woman was to me. Forgive me for being cross, but to this day I find her treatment of me beguiling. I'd spent days wondering, did I deserve this? Was Angela a conduit through which God could punish me for the sins Angela rightfully pointed out to me? I still wonder that, in my calmer moments, I acquiesce to the idea. In my lowest moments, I almost relish it. But the truth of the matter is, every time I was presented with her, her maddening ability to pinprick me, to always find something wrong with me. Oh my, I'm doing it right now, aren't I? Ignore me. All is right with the world, and I'm back in my cell where I belong. I deserve every bit of ire I'm recounting to you. It's just that in retelling the story, I must inhabit a previous version of myself to properly describe how I felt. I'll try my best not to let the past and present bleed together too much in future. Angela huffed away after the cat. I decided I'd better head to the opposite direction if I was to avoid any more unpleasantness. I walked back toward the rectory, the last of my mind's haze replaced with a burning indignance. I would not say I was in a good mood, but I was certainly more alert than I'd been for some time. There she is. Splendid. Oh, hello, Sister Margaret. Sister Catherine. We were looking for you. What luck? I told her to look for you, and I wanted to make sure that she did. Margaret has this very amusing idea that I'm a flake. Can you believe it? Anyway, we would like to cordially invite you to the Misericorde this evening. That's right. You've seemed all out of sorts recently, and a little birdie told me that Charity might have indicated that you were welcome. Which you are, as it happens. But you've been in such a state recently, Margaret got it in her head that perhaps you're waiting for a more direct invitation. Which I actually suggested Catherine extend several days before you even spoke with Charity about it, I should add. Which I don't remember, but I would never accuse Margaret of lying. Hence, would you like to join us in the Misericorde tonight? I'm very grateful for the invitation. I hope you don't think I was moping around because of that. Although, wonderful, I knew it couldn't have been my fault. Catherine. Margaret? Let us speak. Of course. Did Charity explain what happened after our conversation? There was nothing else mentioned. Oh, well. I looked over my shoulder and peered past the pair of sisters in front of me, just in case Angela was preparing to make another dramatic entrance. Sister Angela may have overheard the two of us speaking unfavourably about her. Is that all? No wonder she didn't say anything about it. Arguments with Angela happen all the time. It's practically passe to mention. No, you don't understand. She was extremely upset. It was horrible. You never forget your first. The first time she caught me in the pantry at night, she dragged me up on my ear to the superior's office to wake her up to demand I be punished. Were you? Of course not. Soup mumbled something about sleep being important and shut the door. Honestly, I think it was meant more for Angela than me. Angela had it in her head that I'm responsible for the cat running around the abbey, and she'll not stop bothering me about my broken door. It is a bit creaky. I'm a busy woman. Besides, I can't work with my hands. So I shouldn't worry about Angela? No, not in the slightest. I considered expanding my story to include the encounter with Angela that I'd just left, but I decided not to pursue the subject further. We need to talk about the kid. I was relieved to hear that I had some support in the matter. However, I didn't want to risk continuing to invoke Angela's name, lest she emerged from behind a corner or dropped from the ceiling at that very moment. What does one actually do in the Misericorde? Drink. Yes, there's a lot of wine. Is that all? Wine, as I'm sure you're aware, is a staple of life in monasteries. So you're all alcoholics then. So this on its own is not exactly enticing. After all, there was practically an ocean of the stuff just below us. Better wine than we drink usually, to be clear. Wine that's made for the drinking, not just for drinking. Oh, I see. There's also chess, music. I'm feeling like breaking out the loot anyway. We read and talk. It is an oasis of pleasure here in our boring little community. Angela will not be attending tonight, by the way. Well then, I'd be delighted to join you. Splendid. I'm very sorry if you're feeling left out. I assure you I was not, but thank you all the same. You really worry too much, Margaret. Well then, I'll see you later. No, we gotta talk. The two excused themselves. Are you surprised that I agreed to attend? Well, it sounds plainly like a night of debauchery, gossip, and sin. Well, I suppose I surprised myself too. Although, as I'm sure you've guessed, I had an ulterior motive. A wine-soaked event would be the perfect opportunity to ask Catherine about poor James. Tongues would be looser than usual, and my questioning might not be under quite such scrutiny. I explained all this to the superior, who pulled me aside after supper to ask if I'd fulfilled my promise. The Misericorde. Yes, it seems like the best way for me to talk to Catherine about it. It'll seem natural. And it didn't feel natural at any other point you saw her today? When she was giving you the invitation, perhaps? Margaret was with her. I see. Well, I don't love the prospect, but as long as you get the result we need, I can't stop you. Is there something wrong with the Misericorde? It's a space with explicitly relaxed rules. To be honest, I'm surprised you aren't more vocally opposed. Well, it's a rule unto itself, is it not? I cannot argue with tradition. I see. You're a stickler, but not a spoilsport. Something like that. I can understand that, I suppose. The problem is, given that most rules around here are quite lax, the bar is raised a bit higher in there, I think. Angela certainly cares about the rules. Well, she's the prioress, so that's her job. Although she might go a little far in the other direction for my taste. What's your ideal picture for this place then? I'm curious to know. That's a very interesting question. Thank you for asking. Superior swirled the cup she held in her hand and looked off in the middle distance behind me. It would be much the same, truthfully. The buildings wouldn't be in such disrepair. I wouldn't have to suffer such direct insubordination on a regular basis, but I certainly wouldn't rule by the sword. That's the trouble with the Misericorde as it exists now. I have no quarrel with the concept of an easement in the dam, but I'm not sure there is much of a dam currently. What do you mean? Children should be expected to have secrets. Towns need inns. The workers in the fields, the lowliest peasants, deserve their holidays. Precepts must be upheld, but I think they can only be upheld if people are allowed at least the illusion of breaking them. That is surprising, to say the least. You disagree then? It's understandable. Well, for one, are we not nuns? Foregoing earthly delights is our strength and purpose, surely. It would seem we have reserved positions here. Flip the chessboard around the other way, as it were. Well, in my ideal abbey, everyone is content. They do their tasks and enrich their lives and serve as vessels of prayer. And then they're allowed a brief respite, so that they do not become overwhelmed or discouraged by their work. I spent my whole life alone in a cell with my work, and I didn't once complain about it. The superior tilted her head in a manner that reminded me of the cat that I'd seen Angela chasing earlier that day. Did you never dream of leaving? Was there nothing in your books that you wished you could go see for yourself? Never. The writing was enough. You must have a truly vivid imagination. I'm not sure I do, I just never needed anything else. You never sang to yourself, invented little games? Wow. I did have a few reading games now that you mention it, but perhaps that's how we arrive at an understanding then. You were perfectly content in the world as you experienced it, but you still needed to come up with something of your own. Something different. That's the ideal purpose of the Misericorde. The tavern, the arena, and so on. I find that very hard to swallow. Would you say the same of prostitution? The superior made a sneering gesture that took me aback. You are flailing your way out of check here, I'm afraid. There's no need to grasp at such extreme examples. Of course I don't feel that way about whoring. And don't retort by asking if I find whores beyond redemption then, by the way. That wouldn't make any sense, you're quite right. She finished her drink in silent satisfaction. I steamed for a minute. I'm afraid that she was actually entirely correct in her assumption that pivoting the conversation back to scriptural understanding was my intended reply. I find the Misericorde in its current state unseemly. The rules here aren't being followed outside of it, let alone inside of it. I worry about what the sisters could be up to in there. It ceases to be an easement if the whole plane is flooded. Well, I'll be careful. I'm sure one night with the others won't utterly corrupt me. See that it doesn't. I suppose it can't hurt you for you to experience it for yourself and report back to me exactly how founded my assumptions are. If you're that worried about it, why not just disallow it? It's an expected function of a Benedictine monastery. Besides, I have no interest in making these women respect me less. Would they respect you less if you took it away? Or would they respect you more if you showed that you had that power? I dare say I'd be the next one found without a head. I shuddered. While I was never completely free from fear, direct confrontation with the reality of my situation still unmoored me. It made me feel like I was being watched. Please don't say such things. I'm simply making a point. As I've said before, I must play a very cautious strategy in my position. Speaking of, would you like to play a game? The change of subject was a relief, I must admit. We whittled away some time playing chess. I was not very good at it yet, I must confess. Nonetheless, I appreciated the opportunity to fill my mind with something beyond visions of blood and guts. Indeed. Hedwig will be joining us tonight. Oh really? Lucky her. We just left the rectory after the evening meal. There was apparently still some time before the Misericorde's door would open. I had a little bit of time to while away preparing myself for the night in the lion's den. Don't make such a fuss about it. Why not? We're just happy to have you. Well, I'm happy to hear it. But nonetheless, you're making me nervous. You'll have so much fun. Such a special occasion, honestly. Special? Well, yes, isn't gonna be your first time going to a social event. Careful, don't break her. Sorry. Felt like I was about to faint. Moira was completely correct, of course. Never in my life had I been to anything more sociable than meals in the rectory, and those had been overwhelming enough on their own. I'm gonna do my best to have a good time. That's all that matters. It'll be fun. What are we gonna do anyway? I suppose we don't really do anything specific. It's very fluid. We've got a chessboard. I think Catherine mentioned that there's music sometimes. I'll bring my lute. You have your own lute? Yes, Catherine too gave it to me ages ago. One day I should ask Catherine if she could nick the portative for an evening, rather than just disabling it. That could be fun to mess around with. I wish you wouldn't fiddle with the superior's things. It's all in good fun. The soup knows. I'm not so sure. Hedwig, you're getting too nervous again. Moira had seemed so carefree ever since the day that she broke down while talking to me in the dormitories. I was jealous of her ability to have that be her one emotional outburst on such a horrible subject. It was as if she'd simply been able to drain the abscess and heal the wound. I wish that I could do the same. Unfortunately, every one of my fears and miseries seemed to linger and fester within each other. If my head was a diseased limb, I'd simply have to lop it off. The sun was just starting to set. I decided to go for a walk in the garden. It was one of the best places for me to clear my head that didn't involve drawing a bath, provided I didn't run into Angela at least. But what were the odds of that happening again? I guess that means it's going to happen again if you say that. I was determined to make a real, tangible progress tonight. The Superior was right to be frustrated with the lack of momentum. The poor young man had begged me to do something to secure his freedom, and then I'd slipped into a dark spell for days. I'd been selfish. It wasn't going to be impossible. Things weren't so bad. I even had a clue to follow up on. It'd be easy to ask Catherine about the cloak when we both had a few cups of wine. There was nothing to worry about. I was genuinely interested, after all. Why would I tell Catherine if she asked how I knew about the cloak? Hedwig. Oh, hello. I want to show you something. You've got to come see. Very well. Darcy scurried off around the bend toward the cloister before I could finish my reply. I had to hike up my robe to keep up with her without tripping on the stairs. She was leading me to the dorms, it seemed. Whatever it was that she had to show me, I could not guess. I'm sorry about the mess. I lost an important mushroom and I'd been turning the place upside down looking for it. She had ushered me into a room in the dormitory. It was a stark contrast from my own. There were bits and bobs everywhere, haphazardly stacked books, bottles of various sizes, both empty and full, little scraps of paper, plants in little pots. Darcy had certainly made the space hers. I've been working on this for a while and I think you might be interested. She was standing in front of the small cauldron that was full of thin, clear liquid that smelled a bit like wet grass. You've been sick and sad a lot lately, and I thought, well, maybe I can do something about that. Do something? Did you make this for me? It's a little something I'm fiddling with. Will make you feel better, maybe. What's in it? I didn't want to sound rude, but I couldn't help but think what might happen if it happened to me if I drank something Darcy had brewed. Some St. John's wort, some sage, some water from the hills. I boiled it all together with some other things as well I forgot. It has mint for flavour though. Mentha? That's right. She ladled some of the liquid into a little bottle. The whole setup was a little precarious. I lunged forward to stop the wobbling cauldron from plummeting to the floor as Darcy knocked it about with her sleeve. Oh, steady on me. Good thing I was here. Anyway, try some. Darcy, is this alright? For me? What do you mean? I have a frail constitution and this is very, 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 very light. Do not worry. Think I could drink this without any trouble? If I did it right, it will in fact lessen your troubles. That's very kind of you. I hope I'm not being rude. I just, the Bible often reminds us to remain sober-minded. You're not sober-minded. You were sad a lot and lonely as well. I was very worried while you were not talking very much. And I'm not very good at talking, so I didn't want to butt in while you were saying precious few things. But it still made me sad to see that, so it's hard to read her lines because she doesn't have any punctuation. So I wondered what I could do to help. This will help you remain sober-minded. The world is strange and there is much to be sad about, even here of course. But there is no better way to face the sadness than be prepared. That is all this is. She held the little vessel out to me. Well, I took it from her and gingerly took a sip. It was surprisingly thick, although it didn't taste as bad as I'd imagined. Maybe the mentha helped after all. Darcy beamed at me and took the bottle back from me, filling it up and closing it with a stopper before passing it back to me. Some more for you later if you fancy. I don't feel any different. It'll take a little bit, but I'm sure it'll relax you before tonight. That'd be nice. Will you be joining us in the Misericorde as well? Not tonight, I'll be busy with other things. The odds are increasing that I have to deal with Angela in a social setting that night. The idea was not relaxing in the slightest and actively worked against whatever Darcy's potion might have been doing for me at that very moment. Didn't they say Angela wasn't going to be there? You'll have fun. You'll feel like a real member of the Abbey after tonight, I reckon. This is not going to be some sort of hazing, is it? Goodness, no. That was the pranks. Right. I got you good. True enough. True enough. She smiled at me once more and then ushered me out of her dorm. I do not mean to rush you, but I have some work to do. Oh, not at all. Thank you for the tincture. I hope it serves you well. I gave a little nod of thanks and hurried out of the room. Alright, we're going to wrap this one up here because we're out of time. Once again, I'm hoping that medicine actually helps us out rather than makes us see demons. I mean, she sees demons, right? Maybe she's just giving us the ability to also see demons. I don't know. Anyway, Misericorde tomorrow. That'll be interesting. Thanks for watching, Paris, and I'll see you in the next one.